is a hopeless jumble, and the raindrops tumble all around. Heaven opens a magic lane when all the clouds darken up the skyway. There's a rainbow highway to be found, leading from your window pane to a place behind the sun, just a step beyond the rain. Somewhere over rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby, and somewhere over rainbow, bluebirds fly. Oh, if birds can fly over rainbow high, then why can't I? Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind.
Hello, it's Chuck Clow from Above the Basement, Boston Music and Conversation. Jewel is a singer-songwriter, actress, author, mother, and wellness advocate. Among her numerous accolades, she has earned 4 Grammy Award nominations and sold over 30 million albums worldwide. Her newest project is called Never Broken. It is a roadmap that helps people develop mindfulness, reduce anxiety, and promote wellness. You can read all about it on her new website, jewelneverbroken.com. She also recently published the New York Times bestseller, Never Broken, Songs Are Only Half the Story. Jewel came to the umbrella to help support the amazing organization Serious Fun Children's Network, which provides children living with serious illnesses a spectacular camp experience and high-quality medical care, all in a safe and supportive environment. You can learn more about this at seriousfunnetwork.org. We hope you enjoy our conversation with Jewel, recorded at the Emerson Umbrella in Concord, Massachusetts.
I should have brought you some sushi. I had a big plate of sushi. I feel
You really
terrible.
should have.
Yeah.
That was thoughtless of you.
Yeah.
I see what kind of person you are now.
I know. Now I have to check my teeth.
You should have seen what he did with my headphones. He wraps.
He ate them?
No, he doesn't.
Oh,
he wraps
they got
them.
stuck in his teeth.
He wraps them
Oh.
like a 5-year-old,
Oh.
and they get all kind
That
of
would be a
cute.
first, actually. Yeah.
It's really annoying. So thank you for coming. I know this is kind of unusual, especially because I know you're going on in like pretty soon.
Yeah, traffic was a beast.
Yeah, you come right from the city, right?
I did, yes. I mean, this is my radio voice. Hi.
It's very nice.
Thank you.
It's very nice.
Yeah, who do we have on here
Radio
with us,
friends.
Chuck?
Hi,
So,
this is
we
Jewel from KXYZX. What are you wearing?
I like that.
I like what you're wearing. I like it's almost.
It's medieval chic.
Yeah, I was going to
Thank
say
you.
medieval, but I think it's more of a compliment. That it's very cool. Chainmail-esque, chain female.
Yes, chain female-esque.
So I read that you were actually in Boston. You did, was it a commercial for the Yellow Pages, and you were busking on the T? Is that correct?
I remember that now, yeah.
And then you did
that's
something at South Station, like I did an acoustic concert. Yeah, when was that? It must have been years ago then, right?
You got me.
Yeah.
I have a very casual relationship with time.
Do you know Boston well at all? You know the city?
Boston actually has always been a great city to me and for me. So I got my start in San Diego just very organically. I was singing in a coffee shop every Thursday night. At the time I was homeless, and so I really needed the money, and all the coffee shops locally asked you to pay them to sing there, which was kind of shocking for me. I grew up bar singing with my dad. We at least got paid like $100 or something. And so I found this coffee shop that was going out of business. And I just convinced him, like, if you keep your doors open for one more month, you can keep the food and beverage sales and I'll keep the door money. And so she decided to do it, and I had to go out and get a following, and eventually did by singing just Thursday night. Every night you knew you could come see me, and eventually I built up an audience over a year. And then I got discovered, and it was a really authentic, really amazing type of family environment that I created just out of the loyalty through the fans. The type of fans that I aggregated were just so genuinely passionate and supportive. That was the kind of fan base I wanted, and I knew I was a folk singer at the height of grunge, and so the odds of me making radio were probably very, very slim. And my genius idea was that I would go duplicate what I did at this little coffee shop in San Diego and do it all around the country, which basically meant that I would go camp out and drive in circles. So I was in Boston at the Kendall Street Cafe, which I have no idea if that is still open.
I don't know.
That it was one of the, I think it was maybe before I had a record that was out, and I was selling little cassette tapes.
Right.
In lieu of hope once my record got done. And I was trying to build up audiences. And I remember the first time I played here in Boston, it was like literally 6 people that somehow were like in a music school that went to my performance arts high school. That it was only family that came, you know what I mean?
Right.
But slowly, I think I camped out here for 2 months, where I forget what day of the week, but every Tuesday I was at the Kendall Street Cafe here in Boston. And it was always just like an amazing place for me. The city's always been really kind to me.
Great.
Really an embracing, warm, enthusiastic audience, and all these years has stayed very engaged. And
you did like a residency basically when
I
you
did
were
do
like,
a residency.
What was it, like 19 or something?
Yeah,
probably.
And I did it all over. So every Tuesday was Boston, every Wednesday was Philly, every Thursday was New York, every Friday was DC. And then I actually would start in Toronto. So I did this big loop where every day of the week I was like,
that's a lot of driving.
Yeah. I did it all over the country. Is how I broke my career.
And it was just you?
Just me. Yeah.
That's pretty brave.
I knew to be very cheap because I was, again, making very unpopular music, or what I thought would be unpopular.
But then right after this, your next concert isn't until you're playing in, I'm going to butcher this, Ninilchik, Alaska, at Salmon Fest.
Yeah.
There's like 1,000 people live in that town or something.
They aggregate. People come out of the bush.
Have you played there before?
I've never done the Salmon Fest.
Oh, really?
No, it's my first my first Salmon Fest. My friend Zach Brown did it. I've been telling Zach, I was like, you got to come to Alaska, and not to promote somebody else's city here on your guys' podcast.
Alaska, I'd love to go to Alaska.
But it's really incredible where I'm from, and he ended up buying some land up there and sang at the Salmon Fest. So.
Oh, that's cool. That's like an annual thing where the salmon.
I've never done it, but yeah.
It's at everything salmon, like cooked salmon,
ice cream salmon.
I would imagine they have lobster ice cream up in Maine, on the Northeast. Yeah, that's where
I'm going to start an entrepreneurial business of salmon ice cream.
Yeah, I won't buy any of that.
It's probably good for your skin.
Seafood.
I don't like seafood in my ice cream, certainly.
You have to
kind
taste
of a
the lobster
savory,
ice cream.
sweet thing that you may need to try.
If it was salty, yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
I'm brave, but not that brave.
I mean, let's face it, clam chowder in the lake is very creamy. Probably
New England
frozen.
clam chowder is very unique compared to some other types of clam chowder.
That's true.
I think the Manhattan style has like a tomato base.
I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
It's not my deal. I'm a New
if you're
England
going to have
girl.
clams, it should be in cream.
I agree.
Yeah.
My secret to clam chowder, if anybody's interested out there, is a little bit of lavender. And it's very, very good in clam chowder.
Lavender.
It's my Alaskan take on clam chowder.
Wow,
Okay.
well, this is going to be viral.
Just a little bit with goat's milk. I know that sounds very good, but it's, very
Jules
strange, but it's very good.
lavender clam chowder.
Goat milk, clam chowder.
Interesting.
Lots of butter. You're like, interesting, not trying it.
No, well, I don't eat seafood, so it's not something I'd eat anyways, no matter what.
I guess switching gears, there's a very cool Newman Foundation through the camps around the country and even international, I guess, for kids with cancer. And so that's kind of an amazing cause. And we're
Kind
like
of. Yeah.
sort of.
Oh, you had to be qualified? You thought you would qualify the cause?
I'll let it out
Right.
the kind of.
He does that. Yeah. It'll be a very smooth comment, and I'll sound very intelligent.
Yes.
But thank you for doing that, and I think it is an amazing thing. And I don't know. I have to say, I don't know. I'm learning about the camps, but it sounds amazing. It's free of charge. The kids go for a couple weeks. There's medical coverage. And, the parents get some reprieve, and the kid's having a blast.
Yeah.
My kid's, about 12, and he's going for a 2-week camp in Maine, speaking of Maine, in a couple of weeks. You take it for granted. And these kids are going to have the same opportunity.
Yeah, it's a great foundation. It's a great cause, and they've done a lot of research I don't know about this foundation, but I've read a lot of research about nature deficit disorder, the effect of healing and nature, and how those things are correlated. And it's always good. As somebody who was raised on a ranch, I'm a big believer in the science of nature.
And how it can heal.
Mm-hmm. It's important.
You have a lot of charities and the like that you support. I mean, it's all right there on your site. And one of the things that I read, I don't know if you call it a blog, it's on your website, you wrote it last year, you're talking to the artist and you're saying you be authentic, have a sense of purpose. And I'm wondering how that mission that you gave yourself to be authentic and have a sense of purpose, how did that help you manage not only your music career, but the different directions you went, whether it be acting, whether it be writing, whether it be the philanthropy that you do? How much of that has really kind of guided you?
When I was getting signed, I was homeless, and I went through this very transformational phase. I moved out at 15, so I knew statistically kids like me end up repeating the cycle that they're raised by. So I knew statistically I should end up in an abusive environment, on drugs, or with a partner on drugs, or in a ditch, and I didn't want to be a statistic. And so I set about looking at this idea of nature versus nurture. And yet if you didn't receive good nurture, could you get to know your actual nature? And I did pretty good for a while. I got myself through school and graduated, and ended up in San Diego taking care of my mom who was sick. And ended up getting propositioned by a boss when I wouldn't have sex with him. He wouldn't give me my paycheck, couldn't pay rent that month. We got kicked out. My mom went back to Alaska, and I was living in my car for a while, thinking it would only last a couple months while I got a deposit for a new apartment collected. But I was sick a lot. I had bad kidneys and almost died in the parking lot of an emergency room because they didn't see me because I didn't have insurance. Luckily, a doctor had seen me get turned away and gave me some free antibiotics and his business card, and he saved my life that night. And then my car got stolen. I was living in, so it was pretty bad. Yeah, it was sucked, but I wasn't in the car, so that was, less sucky. So significantly less sucky. And so it was during this time that I was shoplifting a lot and having anxiety attacks, panic attacks. I was pretty derailed, and I was stealing a dress one day, and looked in the mirror and I saw myself, what I looked like. I looked like a homeless kid that was stealing a dress, and I had become a statistic in 3 short years, and I was pretty disappointed. And I remembered this quote by Buddha that said, happiness doesn't depend on who you are or what you have, it depends on what you think. And I had the great luxury of being stripped of everything else to distract me, and decided to see if I could turn my life around one thought at a time and go back to that idea of this nature versus nurture, and how do you rewire a biological computer like a brain that's been programmed to understand an emotional language the way we all are programmed without really even quite knowing that we are. And rewire that. How do you get in there and do that? And so I started experimenting and making up exercises for myself, and eventually being able to work myself out of panic attacks, prevent them, began to be able to witness my thoughts in real time. It's now what's called mindfulness. That word was not around in the 90s, at least that I'm aware of. But I describe mindfulness as simply the ability to perceive a thought and create a gap before you act on a thought. Our brains are very binary, so if you study neuroscience, we actually have a lot more in common with sea slugs than we do than you'd think. We're binary. We move toward pleasure, and we move away from pain, and we lay down memories to help us remember where those two things are.
You had resilience, major resilience on your own.
You learn resilience, yes, for sure.
I mean, this is sort of like self-taught resilience.
Well, it's a learned skill that, you either kill yourself or you keep going, and you make that choice every day, and you keep standing up, and you end up being resilient. That's the accumulation of just standing up, I really think, is the definition of resilience. Yeah. I'm just deciding to say I want to feel better today than I did yesterday, and what am I going to do about that? And you can't complain. You don't get to whine and say, I don't feel better than I did yesterday if you didn't do anything different that morning. So I set about trying to do something different every morning. So by the time I got signed, I felt like I had found the secret to life. Like, I was happy even though I was homeless. I had realized it's a very intrinsic process, and that I could be the architect of a life. I could be the curator of my thoughts. So I kind of liken it to an analogy of a car. If your body was a car, your brain isn't the driver, it's the steering wheel. And we forget that. So Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. I would just tweak that slightly to say I perceive what I think, therefore I am. So if you can observe you're sad, you're something other than sad. You're the observer of sad. And that's an interesting prospect, like, who is the observer? Get into any theological discussion you want. That's all above my pay grade. I just knew I was the observer of thought, and I believe that's what humans actually are. We have the ability to perceive our own thoughts. And we actually have the ability to choose which thoughts we indulge in and curate our thoughts in our brains. So I began looking at that process and began writing about it, and that's when I got discovered. And so to me, my number one job wasn't to be a famous singer. I was offered $1 million signing bonus, and I turned it down. And I really questioned, why would I do this? Because fame, for somebody with my background, actually is kind of a recipe for disaster. Not kind of. It's a recipe for disaster. You throw money and fame
say what it
and
is,
scrutiny.
not kind of, right?
Yeah. I won't put a qualifier on it. I'm not a chicken. You're like, she's rough. She's rougher than we thought. She got her hands full over here.
We've had rougher.
She's nice, but she's rough.
She's got chainmail on.
So anyway, I realized what I cared about personally was being on this journey that I was on, figuring out how can I be a happy person? How can I be a whole person instead of a person full of holes? And I wanted to write about that. I didn't want to make pop music and be really famous. I wanted to make authentic music that I cared about. And if I had the opportunity to cultivate a fan base that was based on that type of value proposition. And so that's why I set about building my career the way I did, in a very unconventional, very unglamorous way. I have this motto of hard wood grows slowly. If you want to do something, you have to do it the right way. And there really isn't a shortcut. Every day, a musician, a career person, anybody, all of us, every day we make about 100 decisions at least a day. Some are about our lives, some are about our career. But what is your North Star? What is the compass that you use to make those decisions by? And for me, I knew what my North Star was. I wanted to be a good person first. I wanted to be a happy person when I looked back on my life. Number 2 was to be a musician. And then what type of musician I wanted to be. I wanted to be authentic and
How old were you when you had the North Star?
I was probably 18. That was like right at the end of me being homeless, like just when I was getting signed, probably just turning 19 in there.
You grow up quick.
Yeah, I grew up bar singing, and you grow up quick, that's for sure.
But what about the therapeutic effect of your songwriting? I mean, you mentioned mindfulness. That you're right. It's more of like a buzzword right now. But how has songwriting...
Like the lullabies, right?
Exactly, yeah. I want to hear about the lullabies, which I just recently found out about, which I love. How does the songwriting become therapeutic for you? Or does it?
It was always an extension of what I was trying to learn in my life. So for me, like when I was shoplifting and I was trying to figure out what I was thinking to see if I could curate my thoughts, I couldn't witness my thoughts in real time. I had too much anxiety. And so I started watching my hands, because the hands are the servants of your thoughts. So if you want to know what you're thinking, actually just watch what your hands are doing during the day, because it's your thoughts slowed down into action. And so I thought I could reverse hack basically into my thoughts by watching what my hands did. And so I began watching my hands, was one of my first mindfulness exercises, and it caused my anxiety to really lessen, and it forced me to be present, which we've all heard now how important that is. The reason it's important is because your brain is constantly taking the past and doing a mathematical calculation and projecting it into the future. And it doesn't really let you show up right now and actually create change, and change is in the moment right now. And if you're never showing up right now because you're constantly afraid of what might happen, you don't have the ability to intervene. And that's what made me write my song Hands, which ended up becoming a big hit for me.
Right.
Yeah, all my music was very related. Who Will Save Your Soul was the first song I ever wrote. I wrote that when I was 16. So it was always stuff I was thinking about because I was trying to solve for these problems in my own life. Yeah.
Well, we're getting the cutoff signal, so I wanted to thank you for taking the time to do this. And
thank you
I
for
really
that
appreciate
research.
Your time.
It was quite well done.
This
over
is what
there.
we do here. This is what we do.
Professionals.
Have a great
You
show.
at least.
Yeah,
He just
sorry.
coughs
I just
and
kind of
mumbles and does qualifiers.
It's embarrassing. We don't pay him, so it's okay. But have a great show. I'm really looking forward to hearing you, and safe travels from here on out.
I appreciate it. I will mention just a few things if I'm
Absolutely.
allowed.
Please do.
Please.
I have a book out called Never Broken that chronicles my life and shares a lot of this if people want to learn more about it. And then people were asking me if there were specific exercises I used, and so I just formed a website called jewelneverbroken.com that starts sharing the mindfulness exercises that I actually used. And a really famous neuroscientist named Dr. Judson Brewer, who is a local of yours, if I have it correctly, signed on as my science partner to explain why these exercises work. Excellent. So that was a pretty amazing thing for me to be like, you mean there's actually science behind this? It actually really, really worked? Yeah. I mean, I knew it worked for me, but...
Right.
So if people are struggling with anxiety or just looking for how to create simple change, they're just 3-minute exercises. It's really what I used, so that's up there.
And is Jewel Never Broken?
.com.
.com. Okay,
we'll put that on our website too.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right on.
And check out the lullabies, people out there, because
that was my indie record.
I was just listening to Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which is like, I know you didn't write that, but it was great. Yeah. It was great. There's an a cappella start. Have you heard that one?
I haven't heard that one, no.
Okay.
He's
listen
not
to
that
it
well
after.
researched. You just revealed it.
Yeah,
Well done.
it was just a YouTube thing. You know, anyway,
I see the passive aggressive behavior between you two.
well, thank you
we
very
too
much.
does.
Thank you
for being
guys.
here.
Thanks
I
very much.
appreciate it. Thank
All right.
you.
Jewel was so down to earth, thoughtful, and funny, and we had a great time sitting with her and an even better time listening to her play live. We'd like to thank Jewel for her time and her story, as well as all the folks at the Emerson Umbrella, which you can visit at theumbrellaarts.org, and also the fine people at Development Strategy Consultants who helped facilitate our evening and conversation. You can visit them at developmentstrategy.com. Go to our website at abovethebasement.com, where you can sign up for our newsletter, listen and subscribe to our podcast, like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and look at all the nice pictures we post on Instagram. We are everywhere. So that's it. Thanks for listening. Tell your friends, and remember, Boston music, like its history, is unique.